What's going on, golf addicts? It is Masters Week, and we are the Tour Junkies, and this is Tour Junkies After Dark, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Man, are we pumped. This is the best week of the year to bet on golf. If you're not betting on golf, what are you even doing with your life? You're just sitting there licking the Cheetos off your fingers, the Cheeto dust, getting it all over yourself? Come on, man. Get in the game. There's so many good offerings from DraftKings this week for the Masters in our hometown, literally right down the street, like that way from us, right here in Augusta, our hometown, born and raised. We're pumped about it. We are excited to be here. We just finished recording our own podcast. You can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. You can check it out on our YouTube channel. But one of the things we did this week, Pat, everybody knows how Augusta National is going to play. Everybody knows. It's the same course every year. We've seen it for forever. We kind of get it. But the big question is, how's it going to play in November in Augusta? Well, it is going to play a little bit different. We had our friend, Mr. Charles Howell III, who's won multiple times on the PGA Tour, who was born and raised right here in Augusta, grew up next to Pat, hitting golf balls on the range with Pat Perry, that man himself who just took a fine sip from his adult beverage there. And, Charles is making his 12th appearance at the Masters this week, playing this week. So we had about a 25, 30-minute conversation with Charles about how this was going to look, how it was going to go down. Charles gave us more than enough information, even about that. We talked about players he liked, first-timers he liked, veterans that he liked. Listen, Charles has been on tour for like 25 years, and he's made $1 bajillion. He's like a professor with tenure, okay? He'll just say whatever he wants to say. We can ask him whatever, and he'll deliver. So if you want to check that out, you can also head over to our YouTube channel and watch Charles Howell help us break down how this golf course is going to play. But ultimately, Pat, it's going to be soft. As we sit here today on Monday night, the weather looks a little wet. And while Augusta National does have sub air underneath the grounds out there, and they can suck a little bit of the moisture out, Charles told us why they can't suck all of it out, and the golf course is going to play a little bit longer in the fairways. So it's going to be a little longer off the tee. Obviously, you've got your same fast, undulating, bent grass greens that we're all used to seeing. What else do you think we need to know when it comes to picking players?
Well, I think what Charles said was important about it being a soft golf course, so that is definitely something to pay attention to when you're looking at picking your players. But, yeah, this course, we know it. Augusta National par 72, it's about 7,500 yards. I think it's important to know the cut rule this week, okay?
Yes,
so it's
changed.
T50 and ties. T50 and ties will make the cut. They no longer have the 10 shots within 10 shots of the leader deal. So that's something that's interesting. One of the things Charles talked about is that the ryegrass really hasn't had a whole lot of time to really kind of establish itself. So there's a little bit of Bermuda still up under there, and you might could get some kind of funky lies because of that. So that could be interesting as well. But look, it comes down to the approach game this week on this course. This is a second shot golf course. You got to know these greens. You talked about how undulating they are, how fast they are, but you got to know where to hit them. You got to know which spots you got to hit these greens in. You got to know where your good misses are if that happens to happen. So, that is, again, these guys have to be great with their irons this week. And I think, certainly off the tee, you got to be good, but it's not as important as your approach play into these greens. And then if you do miss the greens, you got to scramble your butt off to do well here on this course. So I think that's important as well. So we will see, but I'm excited. I'm ready to get rolling for the Masters.
Yeah, in terms of DFS, that cut line is a big, big, big thing. If you kind of casually play DFS golf, you need to know that there are going to be a lot higher percentage of lineups that have all 6 golfers play the weekend here in the Masters than you're used to seeing. The field's down to 92 now. We should probably also mention that Joaquin Niemann and Sergio Garcia are out with positive COVID tests. So that's all we know for now is that they are out. But the field's down to 92 players, and with top 50 and ties making the cut, you could see 60% of the field play the weekend, which is a little higher than what we normally see on a regular PGA Tour rotation. So 6 of 6 lineups are going to be more common unless a bunch of chalk busts this week. So you're going to have some ownership leverage in terms of DFS. That's for sure. That's probably one of the most important things that you could have. We really want to talk about some of the things on offer at the sportsbook, but I think we have to start with the thick golfer of the year, Mr. Bryson Deshambo, who was the betting favorite alone until today. I don't know if you noticed that he was.
I did notice that.
He was the betting favorite at like 8-1, I believe, on a lot of places, and DraftKings being one of them. And I think now he is up there with Dustin Johnson, who obviously has just been playing lights out lately. They're both 9-1. I'm gonna go ahead and say this. This is what I'm doing with Bryson because I think I've landed on it, and I don't think I'm gonna change my mind. Talked about this a little bit on our podcast. I'm not going to bet Bryson. I just don't tend to bet. Life's too short to bet the favorites. Okay, people, if you watch this show, you know I like the long shots, and that's what we try to give you. There's plenty of people out there that can tell you, oh, you should bet Xander Schauffele or DJ. Like, there's so many people that could tell you that. I'm here to tell you about guys that could dark horses, right? That's what we're here for. So I'm not going to bet Bryson DeChambeau. But I do think I'm going to play him in DFS. I think I'm going to pay top price for him at 11-2 on DraftKings. Think I'm going to play him. His ownership projections as of now are a little lower than what I thought they were going to be. They're around that 15% number. I'll probably double that and go pretty heavy into Bryson. I think just what he's going to do to these par fives alone is worth the DraftKings points. I think that's the difference maker. It's the scoring system on DraftKings. It rewards birdies and eagles way more so than you're penalized for a bogey. And I just think at the end of the day, Bryson is going to find himself on most winning GPP lineups on DraftKings because of the points he's going to score. Even if he doesn't win, he's just going to score. I just see the guy scoring. The length is a massive advantage here. So I'm going to play Bryson in DFS, fade him everywhere else. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as high on Bryson as you are. Now, look, that's kind of an interesting statement that just came out of my mouth because, I mean, it's hard not to be high on Bryson DeChambeau this week. I mean, the guy has just been incredibly good. He destroyed the field at the U.S. Open. But I'll be interested to see where ownership comes in later in the week on him because if he's pretty high owned, I think I'm going to fade him. And I think I'd rather go with a guy like Rory, a lower owned Rory, who for sure is going to be lower owned, a guy like Brooks Koepka, who's coming in with not a whole lot of form, even though he did play good last week. I think those are two guys that are kind of contrarian plays that I like going down to in the tournament as far as my lineups are concerned. So I think I'm going to fade Bryson. And I just don't know look, I agree. The scoring is going to be pretty good for him. But there's just so many expectations on him to do well and to be the favorite. All these other guys are hearing that. And I don't know. We'll see what happens with him. But right now, I'm going to fade him.
Well, and by the way, I mean, it's really tough to find a reason to fade a lot of guys up top. I mean, they're the best golfers right now. It's tough to do. And I like the Brooks call for sure. I mean, one thing we learned is that at the Houston Open, the first 2 rounds, Brooks was trying out a new driver. It wasn't going well. He went back to Old Faithful driver over the weekend. I believe he shot 66, 66. Ended up finishing very, very well. Played nicely in Houston. So it would be a very Brooks thing to do to alpha the green jacket away from from Bryson the year that he's favored.
Oh, he would love to do that. Just throw up a big old middle finger at the old Bryson narrative.
Yes. Let's get into the sportsbook stuff. Let's talk the shorter numbers. We're going to talk outrights. I got a couple of matchups that I like, and I think I got matchups. I was kind of picking and choosing. I got matchups, and I do have a kind of a fun prop that I really like, but most of this, let's get into some outright bets. Shortest name on the board that you're willing to throw some cash on today?
Well, there are 2 guys, and it changed a little bit because the odds have changed some since we did our betting show. But now, on the betting show, we were getting Xander just a few days ago. He was at 14-1. Now he's at 16-1. I like it even better at that number, obviously. And then right next to him, I just mentioned Brooks. I think Brooks at 17-1 are that's a pretty good number for him. So I like those 2 right there if we're talking kind of 20-1 and less.
Brooks' number got shorter, I think, though, didn't it? Didn't it get shorter? I think it was like 22 or 20-something to 1 earlier.
No way.
I think it was.
I don't think it was that short.
Okay.
I don't think it was that. I still like him I wish he was at that number still, but I still like him at 17-1.
Yeah, I mean, if I were going, I just don't bet numbers this short. It's just not what I do. I mean, I would lean Xander. I think I'd rather have Xander in there. And probably Rory, Xander and Rory. I mean, Rory only at 14-1, Xander at 16-1. Yeah. If I'm going to bet Xander at 16-1, then I'm crazy not to bet Rory at 14. So that's probably where I would go in the shorter range. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot there though. I start getting a little excited at Tony Finau at 33-1 right now. And I know Tony Finau isn't known to be a closer on the PGA Tour, right? He's won one event. It was an alternate field event. He's come so close so many times. So many poor Sunday finishes for Tony. But I think he's got enough scar tissue built up, and he loves Augusta. This is his third appearance at Augusta National. Finished 10th his first time out. Finished 5th last year his second time out. He's got all the length that you need at Augusta. He comes in good form. The trends are there for Tony, and I just feel like Augusta's a magical place, right? And it sounds cheesy, but you and I have grown up here. We've been to the Masters every year. There's just some magical stuff that happens, right? The stories that are written at Augusta National are pretty cool. And I'm going to buy a little bit of the narrative this week. Normally I don't. Probably all the data guys out there are like just wanting to shut the computer down right now. But there's just something about it. And Tony is one of those guys. He's one of the nicest guys. He's one of the most well-liked guys. He is a true gentleman. I've met him. I've spent time with him. We've interviewed him on the podcast before. He's a true gentleman. And he's just a good soul and a good ambassador for the game. And I think a guy like that going from not winning one of these big PGA Tour events to just going straight to the top and winning the granddaddy of them all, if you will, would be a very interesting story. So at 33-1 with his firepower, his record at Augusta and current form, I love Tony Finau. After that, I'm probably going to keep getting longer here. So I'll bow out and let you pick up on anybody here.
Well, there are two guys if we're kind of staying in between, this 25-1 and 50-1 numbers. I like Webb Simpson right there at 40-1 And
yeah,
then
I like
also
that number's gotten longer, I think.
His have got, and Matthew Wolff at 45-1. He was at 35-1, I think, earlier in the week. So I like those two right there. Webb at 40-1 and Matthew Wolff at 45-1. I mean, we just saw Wolff come into the U.S. Open his first time ever playing there, finish second place. I mean, it's not too bad for your first time. And I know these first timers this week, we always talk about that. That's kind of another narrative that we get. First timers can't win here. We've only seen it one time. So I don't think, though, in the year 2020, I think I guess I shouldn't say I don't think. I do think there could be a first-time winner this year. So we'll see. And I have some other longer odds guys that are first-timers as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, our buddy Charles Howell talked about first-timers. You can go back and listen to that, like I said, on our YouTube page or podcast. But he talked about how first-timers this year are not going to have to deal with the patrons, which he thinks is an advantage, or it helps them out a little bit, remove some of that, some of the nerves, maybe some of the pressure, the anxiety that you feel teeing it up at Augusta for the first time with a sea of people around every single hole. So I do think, we haven't seen a first-timer win since, the late 70s, I think. I think if there were going to be a year in recent history, this may be a good one to look that direction. So, and with the crop of first-timers in this field, boy, I mean, there are some really talented names. You mentioned one with Matt Wolff. There's some really talented guys in here for sure. All right, if I'm continuing to move down the board, I'm going to go with a few old guys here. I'm going to hit the old guys. We talk about the first timers, the young guns, but I got a soft spot right here in this range for three old farts. Louis Oosthuizen. I say old farts. These guys are probably still in their late.
Yeah,
30s.
I mean he's not
compared to like Matt Wolff and Scotty Scheffler and all these young guys, Louis Oosthuizen at 60-1, Justin Rose at 80-1, Paul Casey at 80-1. Louis Oosthuizen should have had a green jacket. Bubba Watson literally snatched it from him years ago, hitting a 140-yard gap wedge or sand wedge out of the pine straw to number 10 and stealing it from him. But he has a tremendous record at Augusta. He's played very well since the restart. Sweet Swinging Lou is still very long off the tee, plenty long off the tee to compete here at Augusta. He's the last man we've seen to get an albatross at Augusta, I believe, on number 2. He's got plenty of length and he knows this place. And, we didn't talk about it, but Augusta is a place where experience and course history matter more than any other tournament on rotation all year round. There's data behind it. Your eyeballs can see it. Tiger said it last year that every time he comes to this place, he continues to learn something every year, some intricacy on the greens, something about, a spot on the course. And Louis has that experience. So does Paul Casey, who's been here plenty of times as well. Paul Casey's had plenty of good finishes at Augusta. He's a premier ball striker. with the conditions the way they are, you're going to need a good combination of length and accuracy off the tee. That's something that Louis and Paul Casey give you. I think if the conditions are too wet, like you guys are really going to have to be in the fairway here as well. And Casey he's long, he's plenty long, Popeye forearms, and he's pretty deadly accurate, and he knows Augusta quite well. And while he's never won a major before, we just saw Sergio do it. Like, how long did Sergio sweat it out before in 2017 he finally, busted through with a Masters victory? If Sergio can do it, Paul Casey can. By the way, a lot of people forget Paul Casey nearly won the PGA Championship over the summer, finished runner-up to Colin Morikawa, just couldn't run him down at the end of it. But he nearly won the PGA just a few weeks ago. And then Justin Rose, another guy with an incredible record, probably in most recent history a better record out of those three at 80-1. Rose has 2 runner-ups at the Masters in his last 5 starts. His form's been a little spotty. He comes in with probably the worst form out of those 3. It's been spotty, but he's been going through some equipment changes. The clock is ticking for Justin Rose to get that green jacket. I feel quite confident he's taken these last few weeks off, and he's dialed in what he needs to dial in. And he's going to come to Augusta ready to execute with the right clubs, the right equipment, and he's got the game. Again, plenty long, plenty accurate, and knows Augusta so well. So I love those 3 guys.
Yeah, you kind of stole Paul Casey from me. I was really liking him at 80-1.
Oh, really?
I think that's a good number. Rose, I'm not as confident on. I don't know. It doesn't excite me all that much.
He scares me a little bit, but
he's scary.
They're going to start scaring you down here in this range.
Well, yeah, this next guy scares the heck out of me, but I think he could be has a good chance, and that's Cam Smith. He's at 90-1. He finished T5 here 2 years ago. I think he was 51st last year, which isn't that great, but we've seen some good form out of him. We know he's a great scrambler. So I think that Cam Smith at 90-1 is interesting. And then if I'm jumping just above that into the 100-1, 125-1 category, the 2 guys here that I really like. One, an old guy too. I'll go with an old one for you, Lee Westwood. Mm-hmm. He's at 100-1. I like Lee Westwood at 100-1. I think he could be a good number. And look, he missed the cut last week. I don't care. We've heard that from recent guys that we've talked to that he's just kind of thrown caution to the wind. He's just going to play as aggressive as he can at this point in his career, and I think that's important. I think that could be, we'll see. Westwood has shown that he can play Augusta National well, so we'll see what happens there. And then another guy that nobody's talking about at all, almost won here last year. Showed a little bit of form last week, finally at the Houston Open, because we just haven't seen him all that much. And that is Francesco Molinari at 110-1. I think you're getting a pretty long number for a guy. Now, look, I know
that is a long number for. That's a lot. That's a. Yeah. I don't know that I'm buying the form yet.
Well, we'll see.
What about
we don't have a whole lot to go off of to even see that much form.
I don't mind. And
he had some good rounds last
like the top 10 numbers, 16-1. Top 27.5-1. I mean, do you really think he could win? He's played we've seen so little of him.
I mean, I think he's got just as good a chance as, for these odds, I think he's got a chance.
Okay. I've got a few more long shots here. My favorite long shot first timer is easily Mr. Jason Kochrack. Jason Kochrack busted through with his very first win of his career just a few weeks ago at the CJ Cup on bent grass greens, mind you. He's a ball striker. He's a bomber. He's a ball striker. He always has been. His problem has been the putter and confidence and just closing the door. Well, he arrives on bent grass putting greens, which he's best at, and he arrives with some confidence and a lot of form and plenty of distance, plenty of length. And while he is a first-timer at Augusta, unlike first-timers like Matt Wolff and Scotty Scheffler and Colin Morikawa and Sung J M, he's played in plenty of majors. Not that the young guys haven't played in majors, but Jason Kochrack's played in majors over his long PGA Tour career. He's played in Players Championships. He's played in big events. So I think not having patrons will help. Obviously, he's not going to have some of the course knowledge around Augusta that a lot of people would, but I do think for a first-timer, 100-1 for Kochrack, 12-1 in a top 10. I think he would be my favorite long shot number to throw out there. Just value bet for me. But then I'm going to keep going down. 150-1. My favorite Canadian in the field this week, Mr. Corey Connors. This is his third Masters. His first Masters, he missed the cut. Last year, I think he finished T45, a little bit of an improvement. Third Masters, third time around is usually a good thing, good for a lot of players. He's one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour. We've had plenty of caddies and players tell us Corey Connors hits the ball about as pure as anybody out there, which I think will be nice in these conditions. A little bit of wind potentially in Augusta, and he's learning the course a little bit more. And he comes in good form. Had a good weekend at the Houston. It's all about the flat stick for Corey Connors, but I think the pure bent grass greens at Augusta kind of help neutralize that a little bit. As long as he reads them right and he puts himself in the right position with his iron play. You said this is an approach golf course. There's hardly any better on approach play. I mean, if you were ranking players by short-term and long-term approach play, Corey Connors would be in the top 10, and he's 150 to 1. I think that's an interesting number. I'm also going to dip down to one of my favorites. I've been betting him all since the restart, and he nearly closed the door and won the Wyndham Championship at 200 to 1. Siwoo Kim, the bomber, Siwoo Kim. Now, this is Siwoo's fourth Masters, I believe. He missed the cut the first one, finished T25 the second one, and T21 in his third attempt, progressively getting better as he figures out Augusta. He's a long hitter. He's an aggressive player. Great ball striker, incredible short game around the greens. He's one of the most underrated scramblers around the greens on the PGA Tour. And Sungjae won the Players Championship. Like, that's a stronger field. The Masters is the biggest tournament of the year. But the Players Championship is a much stronger field than what he faces here at Augusta. He won that a couple years ago, and nobody thought he could do that. And, he hasn't closed the door too many times since then, but I think Sungjae comes playing well, and 200 to 1 in a field of 92 players where really I truly believe there are about 50 names in here that could win this golf tournament. And golf is a funny game. You can get hot for 1 week and come out and do this thing. That's why you have so many winners of the Masters that, only won one time, or they didn't really make much of themselves after that. I mean, Charles Schwartzel's one that comes to mind. Like, there's plenty of those guys. Danny Willett hadn't done much since he's done it. So I think Siwoo could get hot, and 200 to 1 I want to sprinkle. And I do like his top 20 number. He's 4.5 to 1 as a top 20 bet. Now, I do have one other top 20 bet, and I know you like this guy. He's a South African, and he played here, I believe, last year, and I think he did pretty good. Justin Harding at 7.5 to 1. Harding's a longer hitter. Tends to be good around the greens as well. So I think Harding at 7.5 to 1. I was looking at some long shot top 20 numbers. You don't have a whole lot of long odds with a 92-man field and 84 of them, basically being relevant. But a couple top 20 numbers I liked were Siwoo at 4.5 to 1 and Harding at 7.5 to 1.
I like the Harding one. As a matter of fact, I was actually going to talk about a little nationality prop. Ooh. And you can get Justin Harding. He's 7.5 to 1 to be the top South African. I think that could happen. We saw him in his first Masters, finished T12 last year. It's a very good showing, by the way, for your first ever Masters. So I think that's one that I'm eyeing as well to put some money on. And if we're going back to South Africa, let's go to the back to the outrights. Eric Van Rooyen at 125 to 1 on an outright, I think is a little bit interesting as well. This is his first Masters. I know that. But we saw him play well at Houston. He was T20 there. He's been playing pretty well all year. So I think at 125 to 1, that's a good number as well. I love the Siwoo Kim play, by the way. Can you imagine his cameos with the green jacket on?
Bless God. Yes.
He loves – that would be awesome.
Yes. Get him on Jimmy Fallon. Get him on all of them. He's an electric factory of a human. Love Siwoo Kim. All right, I do have one funny prop for you. I say funny prop, just interesting prop. There's a prop for top former Oklahoma State player. There are 3 players in the field. Matt Wolff, first-timer. Ricky Fowler, we all know him. And Charles Howell III. Charles Howell is the dog out of that threesome, and he's at 4 to 1 as the top former Oklahoma State player. Now, listen, Matt Wolff, plenty of talent, all the talent in the world. But what's he done? He's been a little iffy in recent starts, okay? Comes to Augusta, big event. And what's actually kind of let him down at the CJ Cup and at the Zozo was his driver. He's not a great scrambler. He's not a great putter. I could see him faltering in his first Masters. And then Ricky, who's got all the experience in the world here, But man, like he's in a swing change right now. He's working on some things. He could be a wreck. Charles comes playing in his 12th Masters. He's not going to get a lot more of these opportunities. I feel like he's going to come ready to go. He's plenty long, 4-1. I think that's an interesting number too.
I like that one. I don't have any wild props like that, so I can't throw out any of those. But
4 really quick matchups for me. Then I'll let you hit it and we'll button it up. I love Bryson here, but Rory at plus money against Bryson, plus 120. I mean, here's the thing. Bryson hasn't played great at Augusta. Now, he hasn't had the same level of length that he has right now. And don't forget how well he's putting. He's putting better than he's ever putted in his career. So I still think Bryson's going to play great. But give me plus money Rory McIlroy. I don't care who he's playing, and I'll take it. He's plus 120 against Bryson right now. Give me all that. Tony Finau is even money with Hideki Matsuyama. Now, I like both of these boys.
Yeah, but this is a tough one for you.
I love both of them, yeah. But I mentioned Finau, talked about him ad nauseum. I just think the odds are Tony takes that one down, almost every time. I mentioned Louis Oosthuizen. He's plus money against Adam Scott. Adam Scott's minus 137. Louis Oosthuizen's plus 110. That's a plus matchup that I really like. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of Adam Scott. We did see him at the Houston Open. He played well to start, kind of faltered at the end, but he hasn't been playing a lot. He got COVID. We've seen more of Louis, and I think, aside from Adam's victory, Louis's record here is pretty solid. So I like the plus 110 number there. And then we talked about Siwoo Kim. He's even money with Byung-Hun An, who has played here, I believe, twice and only made one cut. Byung-Hun An, notably awful putter, and notably kind of sporadic at times off the tee. Siwoo's just playing much better. He's played so much better in the restart. If you look at Siwoo Kim versus Byung-Hun An in the restart recent form and Masters history and all the stats, Siwoo checks all the boxes. Byung-Hun An checks none. So I think the even money there I like as well.
All right. Well, I'll give a couple. I like Jason Kochrack. He's getting plus money, plus 100 over Matthew Fitzpatrick. I think that could be a good number there and a good matchup. I like Kochrack better than Fitzy anyway. I just think Fitzy's overrated. And then also you're getting Brendan Todd at plus money, plus 105 against Cam Champ. We forget, just because Brendan Todd went through all these troubles that he went through, that he does have some experience playing at the National and playing the Masters. So, and he grew up in Georgia as well. So I know he had plenty of opportunities to play there, as a great college golfer in the state. So I like the experience of Brendan Todd, how good he's played lately, and you're getting him at plus money. I think that's a good matchup bet as well.
Boy, that's the ultimate matchup of the shortest hitter on the tour and one of the longest hitters on the tour there.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
All right, there you go. That's TJ After Dark. Be sure and hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button here on DraftKings. Head over to our channel as well if you want to check out some of the content we got going on. There's a ton of great stuff going on for the rest of the week for Masters. We can't wait. May your screens be green. Have a great Masters week right here from Augusta, Georgia. We'll see you next week. See you.